to talk about, what about if somebody is coming into the relationship with debt or maybe a lot of debt? Like, what is a red flag versus what is like a deal breaker, or what is maybe like, okay, I can work this out. Like, this isn't like, this is like what it is, but it's not going to destroy us for the rest of our life. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So the good thing about money is that almost everything is fixable with it. If you have made past money mistakes, you can fix it. So regardless if you have debt, if you have bad credit, it can be fixed. But there's two things you need for it to be fixed. So you need to have a plan. We've talked so much about having a plan, right? But that's because it's so important. So you need to have a plan of your debt. How are you going to pay it off? How many payments do you need to make? What's the time frame for it? How much more money do you need to make to pay off your debt? You have to have a plan. The second key thing is discipline. You will never pay off your debt if you are not a disciplined person. So now tying that into singleness, if you yourself, or if you're dating someone with a lot of debt, this is the question you need to ask. Does the person have a plan? Are they disciplined? If so, that's okay. It's okay because they will pay that debt off if they are disciplined enough to stick to the plan. If they have no plan and if they're not disciplined, red flag. It's a red flag because you have no idea when they will ever pay that debt off or what they will do with their money in the future or other things as well too. So when it comes to debt, that's kind of the way that I look at it.
And
I was just going to say, like, for me, before meeting JJ, I actually did have quite a lot of debt because I had a business that dissolved and there was a lot of debt from that. And plus, and some other things. And so, but when Hardest Dating started growing, there was like 1 year where I actually started making more significant income. And the first thing I did when I got a big paycheck was literally I paid off all my debt. Like when, like I was like, I could use this for so many things, but I am literally going to pay off like all my debt in a reasonable amount so that I'm not like being crazy, but like I paid it all off like within a few months. And it was the best feeling in the world to be like, I now am officially debt free.
Yes.
Did you do your Dave Ramsey?
And I was paying it off and I had a plan in general, like, but for me, I hit enough of a big surplus that I was like, okay, I'm just going to pay this off because truly for me, this is not something I want to keep thinking about. And I know for me, there's a tendency of, okay, well, I'll just like start upping my payments a little more. And for me, like in the past, I wasn't great at money. I was like, no, Kate, you are using this to pay off all your debt. I know it's tempting to like go buy something really big right now. No, you're paying off all the debt.
Way to go.
The best feeling in the world.
I'm so glad that
I know.
That.
I walked into him, dating him, and I was like, I got no debt, yo. And he was like, what?
Totally, Kate. Like what you chose to do meant that when God introduced you to your future husband, to JJ, you truly could be an asset. Right. You had something to bring to the table. You had something of value to bring to the table. I think it's so important for people as singles to have that type of mentality of I want to be an asset. Also, when it comes to debt. So just to tell you guys about a little bit about our debt story. So when Chad and I met, I was similar to you, Kate. I had no debt. I was solid in my career. I had been really strategic about my finances. Chad is an orthopedic surgeon. To become an orthopedic surgeon, you have to go to medical school. I had no idea how expensive medical school was. So he had medical school loans. And I'm not saying $25,000. I'm saying hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical school debt.
Hundreds, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so when we first had our money conversation, when we were 2 to 3 months in and we're talking about, where we are financially, and he told me that, I was shocked. Because again, I had no clue how much medical school cost. But the thing is, Chad had those two things. He had a plan because he had that solid financial advisor who had worked it out. And also Chad's the most disciplined man that I know. So I was not worried. Because I knew that we were on track and I knew there was an end date to pay that off. Talking more about debt too, then we get married, we buy a plot of land, we start building a home. So we had to take out a mortgage, right, to pay for our home. So now if you add in his student loans and you add in our mortgage, we had about $1 million in debt at that time as newlyweds. Yikes, right? Ooh, it's a
I'm
big
like,
one.
that number just is making me sweat right now.
Big number.
I'm sweating right now. So as newlyweds, we had a lot of debt. So what we did is, again, we sat down with our financial advisor and we worked out a plan with him where he automated everything for us. So he automated our investments, our 401ks, our IRAs, our bills, everything that we would need to be automated was automated to set us up for a nice retirement. And then he says, whatever is left in your checking account is to use to your discretion. I said, our discretion is paying off debt, baby. Let's go, So we just started hammering that debt. And we paid it off in less than 6 years. And Kate, when you make that final payment and you don't owe a cent to anyone, it is a level of freedom and security and comfort that you just cannot replicate almost anywhere else.
It's the
It's
best
an amazing
in the world.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's held over your head for so long, especially I was still like I was growing more past the paycheck to paycheck, but I was like really struggling still as I started hard at dating and I was working some side jobs. And so for me, it was a really big struggle. And yeah, that moment when I paid it off, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm pretty sure I cried. And just, yeah, there's such a weight and that burden lifted. And I was so proud to like walk into the relationship with him and be like, I got no debt and my credit score is this, baby. Let's go.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, what's funny, number one, as you were just talking, both of you, about that debt-free feeling and relief, I just love the parallelism to our spiritual life, especially as Christians, and the debt-freeness that we get to walk in, that forgiveness. And the most awesome reality is that you've done nothing to earn that. Like you have paying off your, money debt, which requires tons of intention, tons of action. I just love the analogy and hearing you guys rejoice in the same way that we rejoice as Christians for all that we've been forgiven in our eternal debt.
Yeah.
But number two, your point is so good, Sarah. Here's the reality. Not all debt is equal, right? Not all debt is equal. Medical bill debt is a lot different. For example, I know a couple who's actually financially, because of finances, there's been a ton of stress on their marriage, and it's not quite clear whether or not they're going to survive it. She married him and was unaware of just how much debt he had, and the debt that he had was over $100,000 of IRS debt because he had been running his own businesses and just didn't pay the IRS.
Oh my gosh.
Operated under the assumption that